right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Represented series where we showcase and talk to different professionals that are on our CHIP professional platform. Again, CHIP stands for Changing How Individuals Prosper. We're a B2B financial services technology platform that makes it easier for individuals and small businesses to find financial professionals of color. We're really excited to bring on our guest today, who is Chioma Deere. So, Chioma, welcome to the Represented series.
Thanks, Dana, for having me.
No, absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's a pleasure to have you as part of our platform as being a chip professional. So I just want to go ahead and give you a second to introduce yourself and let everyone else know how awesome you are.
Thank you. I am Chioma Deere. I am an estate planning and probate attorney in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I've been involved with CHIP for a year and a half now. I've been practicing in Florida for over 14 years as an estate planning attorney, but also with my background in litigation and tech.
Oh, awesome. And thank you for that. So tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you even got started becoming an estate attorney. And also, I know later on we'll kind of talk more about your focus on technology because I always find that so important and interesting and obviously very relevant to where we are. But tell us how you got started.
Sure. I started out as a litigation attorney. And during my tenure as a litigation attorney, I got drawn to probate and helping families with preserving their wealth, and especially in the Black community. Everything that's happened and a lot of information has gone out in terms of the wealth gap and things like that. I found that there was definitely a need for that, but the main reason I decided to open my estate planning practice was because of an event that happened in my family. And it wasn't a death, it was actually someone who just got sick, but they had an entire life that no one could really help them with because they didn't have anyone listed as power of attorney or a healthcare surrogate or someone who could advocate for them other than their spouse who they were separated from. So those situations happen all the time in so many different families. And I knew that with that being the impetus, it was a place for me to be. It allowed me to help families, help people not only take care of themselves, but also take care of their loved ones. And it was really important for me to start my practice to help families in that way.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about what it means to be an estate attorney, kind of defining a little bit around probate. Because, like you said, right, a lot of it is the stuff that we don't know, the things that we don't have in place, and especially around communities of color, Black communities specifically. This is one area that, we don't tend to want to talk about, enjoy talking about. It's not, a great topic to have at the dinner table or at any kind of table, right? You kind of start to showcase a little signs of that and people are just running away. But it's probably the most important thing when we're talking about really steps to close the racial wealth gap that you mentioned.
Sure. Um, my estate planning jokes are really corny. Like, your estate plan will kick in when you kick the bucket or something corny like that. But estate planning is essentially setting things up with legal documents to allow um, the person who's creating those documents to be helped legally by a fiduciary or someone who is legally responsible for them or legally responsible for their estate. So it's really just setting up those documents to put them in place to allow the person that you choose to help you to do so legally. Nowadays, even if you show up to a doctor's office, they're going to want to know if you are their healthcare surrogate or healthcare power of attorney. If you need to help someone with a bank account because they're elderly or they're just bedridden and they can't get to the bank, you need a power of attorney because those are the legal documents that will allow you to do so. That's estate planning. And then, of course, if after you've passed away, someone needs to take care of the assets that you've left in your estate. That's a part of estate planning too, because you have to create those documents that will give those people, your fiduciaries, the legal authority to do what they need to do. More often than not, in my practice, I encourage people to set up their estate plan in a way that would avoid probate. And probate is the court process by which people's estate and persons are taken care of by way of court orders and with attorneys taking care of that those assets as well as the person. And I make sure in my estate planning practice to um, ensure that people avoid probate and probate court at all costs. It is something that can wreak havoc on people's lives, as well as the time, energy, and effort and expense that's involved with that. So my job is to help people to avoid probate, as well as ensure that they're taken care of while they're alive and their loved ones and their assets are being taken care of properly after they've passed on.
Awesome. And how do you kind of talk through that journey with your clients, especially in communities of color, where we have to just get good at just having the conversation? Because it's not so much as when you pass, right? It's also about while you're here and the things that can also happen in that. So how do you build that trust with your clients, and then also how do you help them to also have that build that trust and have those conversations with their families? Are there any steps that go into that, or what does that look like?
Sure. One of the important things that I go over with my clients or even potential clients is educating them about estate planning. A lot of times, people just kind of dive into the emotional part. You're gonna die, or something's might happen to you. All the negative things that are involved with, illnesses and death. I don't really start from that point. It's really about, what's important to the people that I'm dealing with. What is an important part of your life that you want to have carried on, or a story that you want to make sure is told. A big part of what estate planning it is not just the things and the assets and the funds that are involved in your estate. It's also about making sure that the legacy that you've built over the years, the family that you've built over the years, will carry on. And so I start from that point of view. A lot of times when I am talking to families and educating them about estate planning and probate, I am asking simple questions that they can then in turn ask themselves and their families. One that's really important when it comes to whether or not you need someone to help you in the future and who that might be is, who will be your voice? Who will advocate for you? And that is in life as well as in death. Who do you trust to do that for you? And if you don't, what are some of the questions that you can ask of the people that you love or the people that you know to get to decide who that might be? Sometimes it's not as clear cut as you might think it would be. And certainly, people that you may have chosen in the past and have documents placed having their names in it may not be the people that you want to do those things for you now. People change over time, and time changes people. So making sure that your estate plan is also up to date is also an important part of the conversation. People may say they have a will, but it was created 20 years ago, and that is makes a huge difference in terms of what might happen to their estate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially as we're talking about just getting to points where you're reassessing your life, right? Your financial life and everything that kind of comes with that, and making sure you're doing all of the things right. You're kind of taking that overhaul to make sure stuff makes sense. How does it transition, or are there any differences when you're working with or talking to small business owners in the same right? Because they also have to kind of set up quote unquote estate plans or plans for their business. God forbid something happens to them, who they want to take over their business, how they want to continue, to pass on that legacy. We've all worked so hard to build up these businesses and provide for our families. What are different steps or certain steps that business owners should be taking now to ensure that they're setting not only their families up for success, but also their employees and their teams as well?
That's a great question. A lot of people, business owners, kind of ignore this, right? You're the entrepreneur, you're getting a bag, you're going out there to do big things with this dream that you started. One of the things that's often overlooked, though, are those business documents that need to be in place, the will, in fact, for your business. Now, in the estate planning side, the things that are accounted for will be your business, right? I can prepare a trust that will have your business listed in there as an asset of yours if you own it wholly, or even if you own it in part. So, one of the things I tell um, business owners to do is to make sure that they have documents in place that say what will happen to the business upon their death, or and what will happen to the business in the event of their incapacity. Do they want the business to be dissolved completely? Do they want it to be taken over by someone? Certainly what would happen and who would be in charge. Whether or not that would automatically be the same thing as what they have in their estate plan, it doesn't mean that that will be the case, but it's certainly something for them to consider. The next thing that I always want to make sure is that all the accounts with the business have beneficiaries. A lot of people just think that they have a business account and that's what it is, and they don't put any beneficiaries on it. Again, we want to make sure that you have that succession plan or will for your business in place, and you want to make sure all of those boxes are checked. You're looking at it in a holistic way, and those two things are the key things that you want to have in place. And when I say a will for your business, it really means an outline of how everything is set up in your business, and that's usually in the form of a partnership agreement or an operating agreement. Those two agreements, one or the other, need to be in place. And if there are any other agreements that you want to put in place that relates to your business, those should be in place as well. You definitely want to make sure that you're keeping track of everything. So you're asking the question, where are all the things for my business? And keeping them in a centralized place. So whoever you're leaving to manage that business, should you become incapacitated or should you pass away, they know where to go. They have access to that information. So it's making sure that, the person behind you, whoever you choose, or the company that you might choose, will know what to do.
Oh yeah, because the one thing I think people forget, especially well in all businesses, right? But especially in businesses where you're really finding success and something happens, and then you never know who it will be left to, right? Maybe you'll end up being in business with a person's spouse, or someone that you may or may not get along with. Well, right? Those are real things that unfortunately happen, and then can drastically change the dynamics of your business and how you're able to run it and function it. So it is important, and I like how you're talking about the things that small businesses should consider or be thinking about and ensuring that they have in place. So kind of turning it a little bit as we talk more about communities of color, really deepening the awareness of estate planning, of having wills, and also having trust, because I think for a lot of us in certain communities, we feel like those types of conversations, especially around building a trust, is not necessarily for us, or hasn't been something that we gravitated to, right? Building trust, or putting together trust, are for very wealthy individuals, right? And that's kind of been the mentality that a lot of us have taken. But how do you really approach that with your clients, or just with anyone in general, to kind of help change this narrative that having these tools in place is important and can be established by anyone?
Yeah, I get the sense all the time when people come to me, they start with, I don't really have that much. And when you count it all up, it turns into something quite significant, right? All the different careers that you may have had, the businesses that you may have in place, and the properties that you may own, all of that adds up. And although I don't recommend a trust for every single individual, right? I don't think everything is for everybody. I do believe that a trust can come in handy when we're talking about probate avoidance. The way that a trust works is the assets that you want the trust to manage, that the trust owns them outright, or the trust is a beneficiary of those assets. Now, I don't think that every single asset needs to be owned by your trust or even be the beneficiary of your trust. There are different things that are considered. However, the key thing to remember when you're talking about trust is that if the trust owns it, then you don't have to go to probate more often than not. Because the main reason for going to probate is to transfer the title of the assets that the dead person owned into the name of whoever they left in the will, or whoever are their heirs at law, the people that are their siblings, children, and so on. So if the trust owns it, then you don't have to go to court to ask the court to change it over from the dead person's name because it's already in the name of the trust. And that's the key difference. So you can create a trust today, put the stuff in there that you own, and your family can avoid probate. It's that simple. And one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is a trust is really a standby device, right? It really doesn't rock into place as far as a revocable trust until after you've passed away. Because while you're alive, you have full control of all the assets that the trust owns. And I go into all of this in detail every month in my educational estate planning webinars that I put on for my law firm. This really is important because it really debunks the myth that estate planning or revocable trusts aren't for us because you don't have millions and millions of dollars. Yes, there are certain things that I would recommend you go towards a trust more than a will, depending on what you have. But it doesn't mean that you can't create one to help your family and ensure that whatever your trust owns will avoid probate.
Very, very important. For so many reasons, right? It's like we have to start engaging and looking more in depthly about all of our paths, right? All the things that we need to do to be better prepared, and understanding that all of this stuff that's at our disposal is for us and should be utilized, and ensuring that, hey, the educational tools and the people who are there to help you are definitely out there to do so. So I want to switch gears a little bit because I know you have this passion and focus on technology, and that's a big part of your practice as well, which is so important in an age where we drive everything off of technology literally in our hands every single second. I don't know if there's a point where we're really taking a full break from technology, even though we
It's
claim
really
that we
important
would.
to do so, yes.
Exactly. Very important to do so. But how many of us do that? We're so wrapped into it. But tell us a bit about how you've intertwined technology into your practice, and also where you see the landscape of certain industries going as it relates to technology in the path that we're on.
Well, a lot of what I do as an estate planning attorney is finding out what kind of assets you have, right? My background in technology is really knowing how technology works. As a litigator, I was an e-discovery specialist. I'm a certified e-discovery specialist, which means knowing how computers work, knowing how data is stored, knowing whether or not it's stored securely, and how to use cybersecurity in technology to help my clients when it comes to the data that they have as well as the data that they need to protect. I translate that into my estate planning practice because now more than ever, people have digital assets. And digital assets could be anything from everything that you own in your Google Drive, your different social media accounts, especially if you're a creator, NFTs, cryptocurrencies, photographs. All of these things are, in fact, considered digital assets. And then, of course, there are all the bank accounts and various financial accounts that you have digital access to. Now, all of that is really important because a lot of times the only way that you can get access to these assets is by way of technology. Now, that's important for my practice, but the other reason that I make sure that people know that I can help them with technology is because I do so securely in my own law firm. I provide a secure online platform for them to talk to me. They can, I use the secure online platforms for payment. I talk to them online via Zoom and other virtual meetings platforms. So for me, it is an integral part of my practice. My practice is more often than not paperless as well, because it's such an easy thing to do, but also it's a way for me to be able to help my clients in a more secure way. So for me, technology is kind of part and parcel with what I am. But in estate planning, that's not always the case. It's usually very paper heavy. So to be that different in how I put forth my estate planning practice as well as my probate practice, I have clients all over the world who have probate cases going on here in Palm Beach County in Florida. But it doesn't mean that they can't get access to me by in a virtual manner. Now, as far as other industries, I don't think that that's going to change. Our whole world, more often than not, and how we live our lives in it is global, which is why I really like what Chip is doing because it's giving that virtual access to everyone and allowing them to get more access to people like me to help them because we look like each other, but also because it gives us a face in a global marketplace that's more and more virtual to allow us to compete with others who may be brick and mortar. So for me, technology is going to continue to go in this trajectory. Data is going to continue to increase. And it's up to us as lawyers, but certainly as financial professionals, to help to make sure that our clients' data is secure and that we are communicating with everyone in a secure manner and using cybersecurity and strategies such as zero trust to make sure that our clients are being taken care of properly. And that's a part of the education that I provide to my clients as well.
Yeah, extremely, extremely important, especially the education around it, because we forget, right? We have all of these accounts and photos and things that we just set up and also kind of set up and forget about, right? There's also stuff that these digital assets that we probably have all over the place that we haven't checked on and who knows how long. And it probably doesn't take much for someone else to come in and either take that over and things be lost or, God forbid you lose your crypto passwords, right? I mean, that is
Yeah.
catastrophic to people who have, thousands upon thousands of dollars on in there, or even just, whatever money you put in, it's still a lot of
It's
money
still
to
your
that
money,
person,
right?
right? It's still your money. So, you don't want to lose a dollar of that. So for you, when you're working with clients and you're talking to them about those needs, about kind of that digital footprint that they're leaving, and also probably maybe even exposing themselves to other risks. Like, are there other risks that clients are exposing themselves to by having a lot of these digital footprints that they might not have certain control over?
Well, we kind of all do. One of the things that I talk about with my clients is how to ensure that you are keeping track of everything. uh, the estate planning process is one that kind of gets you to bear all, right? You need to know all that you have so you can figure out what it is that you want to do with everything and how you want to talk about it. More often than not, I'm working with a financial advisor, a certified public accountant, or other financial fiduciary to help my clients to make sure that their total estate is being addressed and looked at. It feels like going through everything with a microscope, but on the other hand, it is also a good opportunity to see where those security flaws or fails may actually exist. Because one of the things that I go over with my clients is what kind of digital assets that you have. Then I explain what a digital asset is. But then I also talk about how have you been accessing this information and whether or not you've updated your password. Are they secure? Do you have multi-factor authentication on everything? So all of those things kind of flow together when it comes to estate planning. And sometimes when it comes to probate too, because then we have to figure out where those digital assets are and how to access them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So switching gears again, tell us more about you, right? And the legacy that you hope to kind of continue to establish in this industry, right? There's not a lot of people in this industry that look like you and I. And what does it mean to you to be a Black woman in this industry, running your own practice, having success in it? What would you say to that up and coming attorney, no matter what direction she goes into or he goes into, to enter this business?
Wow. That's one of those things that's hard to quantify. But the one thing that I encourage is to, definitely connect with like-minded people, but then also connect with people who are a little bit out of your comfort zone as well. Chip was out of my comfort zone because I'm an estate planning attorney. And then you think financial, but of course, estate planning and financial go hand in hand. So it was not a hard thing for me to make this decision to be involved with Chip, but it's the same kind of thing that I would encourage people to think about in terms of where to go and how to expand. My vision for my practice, at least in the short term, is to have a boutique law firm that takes care of my clients and provides them with excellent legal services, but also helps them to establish and empower them to continue the legacy that they've built. One thing that is a big part of my practice is not just about the funds that you're doing. Our history is so often depleted and washed away. And I try to make sure that in every estate planning client that I finish, that I provide them with the opportunity and the means to write down, memorialize their legacy, their footprint on the earth, right, and what they've done here. So I would encourage that for all attorneys, not just for estate planning attorneys, so that they see people for the human beings that they are and acknowledge that humanity in everyone. And I want to make sure that I encourage other women of color, other Black women to, do well in their law practice. So whenever I can, I try to mentor, I try to partner with my peers to take care of each other as well as refer business to each other and make sure that we share whatever new education that we learn as we go along.
Great. Yeah. Sharing and giving space and access is the way to go for everyone, right? And I love the point that you made about being human because I think sometimes in certain businesses we forget that, right? We get away from that and it's so easy to just get tunnel vision into your business and the numbers and all the things that come along with that. But we have to kind of cycle back and start remembering that that's another person sitting across from you, sitting next to you that you might either work with, bring on to your practice or just, might also be your client. So I definitely appreciate your time and all the gems that you dropped today. And I always like to leave with a very fun question. Um, so if you weren't in this realm of being an attorney, what would your other dream job be? What did you want to do when you were a kid?
I wanted to be a movie star,
Ah, see,
or
we
that
should have
was
took
what
a
I
lot
was
more time
told
to
I
unpack that.
That's what I was. They would say, I wanted to be a superstar or a movie star or something like that. I think that that comes through, and because I love to talk to people, I love to engage with people, I love putting on presentations. I enjoy being in good vibes and good company,
Mhm.
and sometimes that means holding on to the mic longer than I'm supposed to. So yeah, that was what I guess my other job, and then being a lawyer. I think it's just that the trial scenes that I saw that I loved, and I will always be a litigator at heart, and it's certainly something that travels with me in all areas of my practice now, especially in probate because it's still very court centered, and being able to exercise my negotiating skills and so on. So that's kind of the other thing. And I also probably wanted to be a dancer. I can dance,
Ah.
I think. I think I can dance. I
Nice. So we have a few things. So any client, prospective business partner, when they come to see you, they have to ask you to sing and then show them some dance and some acting skills. They can also come and learn as well.
yeah, thanks for asking that. That was hilarious.
Well, you never know. It always gives fun insight to who people are and really learning more about them. So, a good way and a connection point for other people out there as well. So, thanks again for coming on. And please let people know where they can also find you and learn more about you.
Sure. My website is www.deere-law.com. I am on all the social media sites at Deere Law Firm. And you can reach out to me here in West Palm Beach, 561-515-4376. And my website has all the information about my law firm as well as how to reach out to me. If you know anyone in West Palm Beach or in Florida who needs help, I'm a Florida lawyer and I can help them. So give me a call or check out my website and my social media feeds. Thanks.
Awesome. And Chioma, thanks again for coming on. Thanks for being a chip professional. You are greatly appreciated. And we look forward to all the more success that you'll have in this industry. Thank you for everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Represented series in our Fireside edition. So stay tuned, and I'm sure Chioma will be back for some more educational tips in our educational session as well. All right, take care.
Thanks so much, Dana. Thanks for the
Absolutely.
leadership.